This is Jim, the real estate expert online. Thanks for joining me today. I want to start off with the first 30 days after getting your real estate license. Before we begin, please subscribe to my channel down below. Click on the bell whistle below as well, so that way you can get notified of upcoming training and videos that I put out each and every week. Again, thanks again. So let's start off. Let's paint a picture here. So you've gone through the course of real estate. You just passed your exam. Now, what are you going to do? I remember when I first got my license, it took me 3 tries. It was terrible. I mean, it was brutal. I hated it. I'm just not a book knowledge person. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. So I love to be personally trained and mentored. And that's, I think, how most people succeed in any business they set out to do. So when I finally passed, and I had to drive like 45 minutes to go take this exam, it was crazy. First the written and then the state exam, and just a lot of drama, and I had to pay each and every time I failed. So, but I was determined that I was going to go and get that license and go on to be a very successful real estate professional, and I have been since 1993 now. So yeah, I'm showing my age. So I remember walking out those doors and I got that little certificate showing that I passed. I was so excited, and I walked out the doors and everybody was, greeting me, applauding me, and handing out their business cards, real estate brokers, lenders, title companies. I mean, you name it. I felt like I was like the #1 draft pick just coming out of Michigan or Michigan State. I mean, it was crazy. And so then I had to realize, well, what the heck am I going to do? What is my next step? Well, I already had a friend of mine that her mother was in the business of real estate, and she was a household name. And so I went ahead and planted my license with her, and started working part-time. Now, I remember when I walked in the office, okay, well, I got my briefcase, I have my suit and tie on, I'm all dressed up. So what am I going to do now? What's the first step? So I went to my broker and I asked her, I says, okay, I'm here. What am I going to do? And she goes, well, you got to go prospecting for some inventory. I said, well, what's that? And she says, well, you got to talk sellers into listing their house with you. I'm like, okay, great. How do I do that? And she says, well, you could go, look in the paper and see for sale by owners to see if they're, selling their home, and then you reach out to them. Okay, great. So when I get them on the phone, what do I say? What do I do? I mean, I was clueless, and the broker, she was, supportive, but she could only do so much. She was already an established real estate broker. She's been at it for quite a while, household name. So people knew her, trusted her, and they went for her. They went to her and just called her to list the property. She really, had already, planted the seeds for a long time, but she really didn't have a great training program set up for newbies like myself, so I had to try to figure this out on my own, and it was scary. So then, they suggested, well, maybe, you sit in on an open house, talk to Karen or Steve in the office and see if they'd be willing to let you sit in on an open house for them. And then that way you could get some buyer leads out of the deal and sell a property since you don't have any inventory. So as luck would have it, I did. And within my first 6 weeks, I sold my first house. That was exciting. And looking back on it, I realized that the success rate of selling real estate through an open house is less than 1%. That's crazy. And also I discovered that most real estate agents don't even make their first commission for 6 months, which is also crazy. Fortunately, I had, some financial support through my other 2 jobs. I had my own limousine company, so I was an entrepreneur already. And I also worked for a bank, through the armor car division. So I was getting income in to support myself while I was trying to get into real estate full time. So, I mean, it was a big struggle, you know. So the number one thing on the list is, you know, just figure on 6 months before you see your first commission check. So I know it's can be frustrating, but you just have to realize and have a plan in place financially so you can get through the rough time until you start getting, you know, getting some traction and start making some really good money in real estate. So that's the first point that I would point out in my list of things in your first 30 days. Put in your mindset that it's going to take at least 6 months. Obviously, you can do it a lot sooner. I'm living proof of that. It took me only 6 weeks, which is record time, which is awesome. So I love that. So the second one is 85% of what you were taught in real estate school, you will never use. It will never be applied. I know it sounds crazy, right? Well, wait a minute. I just went through this course, you know, 120 hours, and you're telling me that 85% of it I'm not even going to use in the real world of real estate? Yeah, folks, I'm sorry to tell you this, but they don't teach you the real world of real estate. What they teach you is how to pass the exam. I mean, if you've gone through this course, you already realize that this was really set up for attorneys. I mean, all the legalities and terminology that the common consumer don't even know. You know, these terms that we just don't use on a regular basis. So whenever approached by a client and they ask you some questions, you're not even able to answer them because most of them fall under the legalities. And then you have to say, I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney. I can give you my opinion, but I'm not an attorney. You're going to have to seek legal advice to get those clarities of questions that you may have. I know, it's crazy. So that's number two. Number three, interview with several brokers before you make a decision. Not all brokers are the same, as I had told you in my first message when I signed up for the broker I chose. Had I known she didn't have a platform set up for newbies, I would have never went with her, even though I knew her family very well and went to school together. But that isn't enough when you're looking at this as a career. You have to make those decisions and make sure you make the right decisions the first time before you fall flat on your face. And I was fortunate to be successful within the first 6 weeks because I listened and I was a quick learner. So the things that you want to look for in a broker is make sure they're a pretty well-established brokerage firm. I would also talk to several agents that work under that firm to make sure they like working for that broker. Find out if that broker offers any marketing expenses that they will help you cover. Look at commission splits. It's very important. Office space and location, internet access, leads that they can generate for you. And again, the commission splits, you know, should be set in a manner that is a win-win. So you don't want your broker taking all your money and you're doing all the work. I've been there too. I went to another real estate firm when I moved down to Georgia and went all in full time with real estate. And I joined an organization and they had some training platforms. And I was lucky enough to get into one, which I'll talk about in a little while, that really launched my career. But I paid for that outside of the real estate brokerage firm. So it was offered to us through the firm, but it was a separate company that helped real estate agents, you know, get their career going in real estate. But I applied those principles and I started getting listings on a regular basis. I was closing more deals through that training. It was awesome. But other than the office that they provided for me and a phone and access to printers and fax machines. Yes, we had fax machines back then. I know, it's crazy. Fax machines have become obsolete nowadays. So they were taking 60% of my commission, plus they would charge me another 6% on top of that for franchise fees for the company. I mean, it's crazy. So I was giving most of my commission back for the efforts. And then they did give me a referral once. They gave me a corporate referral. And I remember I sold a $200,000 house. And by the time I had to pay corporate referral fees, my commission fees, and franchise fees, I had a check that was right around $130. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Are you kidding me?" And they said, "No, we're not kidding. That's all the fees and stuff." I said, "I did all this work and you're getting the paycheck. That's crazy." So needless to say, I started shopping around for another brokerage firm, and I went on to another real estate company, which was awesome. The broker was awesome, great support group. They offered 100% commission, and all I had to do is pay $600 for office space, and I got to keep all my commission, and that was wonderful. And it's great for somebody like myself that got to the part of generating my own business, so I didn't have to give up all my commission. So it's very important that you do your due diligence and shop around and see what you think is going to be a good fit for you, and see what the value is that they bring to the table as well. Okay, so enough for that. And then you got to plug into the proper training programs. So that leads me back to this program that I signed up for. It cost me like $600, and it was well worth it. And it was the guy's name. He was a well-known realtor actually in Warren, Michigan back in the day, and he created the Sweat Hog program. His name is Floyd Wickman. I'm not sure if he's still around, but I think the program is still out there in its existence. And actually in future segments of these videos, I will be sharing with you some of the training that I was taught, and I will share with you as well, which will include, how to obtain listings, how to talk on the phone, how to work expired listings, how to, work with buyers, all that stuff, all that stuff that you didn't get taught in the real estate school. Okay, so be sure to plug in. Make sure you message me down below, put some comments in there, questions that you may have. I would love to get plugged in, get to know you better, and work with you as well. I do a mentorship program, and we can talk about that one-on-one. So, and I also have an investor segment in my channels. If you tune in, you will find out ways of being able to buy properties with no money down, no credit, just like you see in those info commercials, but it's real. It's real. And I've done it for a long time across the country, so I'd love to share that with you as well. So let's move on to the next one. Master branding yourself. Now, back in the day, when we first got our license, all we had to really worry about is have one of these things. It's called a pager, and it clips to your hip, and there's a phone number. And so when you advertise properties for sale, you'd have a pager number attached. I think I still remember my number. It's like 404-282-0600. That's what it was. It's too funny. And I still remember that number. And people would page you, and then you would have to go to a landline to call them back, that was at the office that you paid, space for. And for some of those people that are too young to remember what a landline is, it's actually a device that it has a box with dials on it, and it plugs into a wall, and you actually have to pick up the phone. You can't walk around outside with it or take it in your car. And you dial the number back and find out who's calling you, and inquire about what property they want to see. It's hilarious now that I think about it. But yeah, so we had business cards, and if you had some good money, you could buy a phone, a cell phone. They had those box phones out at the time when I first started. Very expensive. I think they started out like $1,500. It's crazy. And then they started, getting a little more advanced and less expensive. And then we finally got rid of the pagers, thank God, So, I mean, it's crazy. So now, you have to brand yourself a lot more. Yes, there was computers back then, and we had access to the database and our listing inventories, and then we also shared a database with all the licensed agents that would put their listings on the system, called the MLS, or the first multiple listing service. And then we'd have access, login, and password, and that's where we would access all the listings from, to share those with our buyers. So now, I mean, we got the social media, you have your own website, or you should be getting your own website. That's a must have, is create your own website. If you don't know how to create your own website, hire somebody to do it for you. There is expense involved. So again, hopefully you have a budget set aside to bear those expenses while you get things going. And then you have all the social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, to name a few. It's crazy. And there's so many platforms out there that we're using now to get people to engage with us and for us to sell properties on. Back in the day, not too long ago, Craigslist was very popular, and then, people started, misusing that and running scams and things like that. Now, the new Craigslist has gotten, rebooted into a whole bit bigger platform through Facebook Marketplace, which is awesome. And so I don't even use Craigslist anymore, or very seldom. I get most of my leads through my website generation, lead captures, and through Facebook Marketplace, and then, referral bases and stuff like that. So it's a big, extensive thing. And so you definitely want to make sure, you might want to look into hiring somebody to get that social media plugged in for you, so you can be successful in branding yourself. Now, mastering marketing, as we talked already, that ties into, working, branding yourself as well. And so I won't go into more detail about that, but I remember again, back in the day, we used the newspaper. I don't know if you guys remember what that is, but there was actually a section, a real estate section, where you could place an ad in the newspaper and you would advertise your listings for sale. And that's where people would call my pager number and inquire about more information. But those times have changed right now, and newspapers have come obsolete as well. Now, I still see some old timers still using, some local newspapers to put ads in, and I have to laugh, because it's expensive and it's not cost effective. It doesn't, get the masses going. You typically would want to make sure that you're advertising in a newspaper that had a circulation of at least 20,000 or more. There was also real estate magazines that used to come out, and we as real estate agents would take a page out, or a half a page, or a quarter page, depending on the price, and it would be full color. And these real estate guides would be, at your local hotels and grocery stores and, other, places of business out front. And then people would grab those and they would look at them, and then they could see your ad and your phone number and all the pictures of your real estate for sale. So those things have fallen to the wayside as well. They're obsolete now. So, I mean, it's just crazy how things have changed over, the course of me just being in the business. I'd hate to see how people were successful at real estate, prior to, 1993, when I first got my license. That's crazy, right? So, and the next thing is action plan, goal setting, and scheduling. That is so important. Through my training through Floyd Wickman, it talked about, vision and setting goals for yourself. There's so many people out there today that don't take the time to actually write down their goals and how to achieve those goals. So in a future segment, I will put together another video, a short video, that teaches you how to set goals for yourself and how to put together a plan to achieve those goals. So be sure to be on the lookout. Again, be sure to plug in and subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of important and valuable free information for you. So please take advantage of that. Now, helping agents sell their inventory. Again, I talked a little bit about this when I first started out. Now, when you first come out of the real estate class, you don't have any inventory. You're kind of like a used car salesman standing in an empty parking lot. You got nothing to sell. So how are you able to make any, earn any commissions in real estate? Well, it's quite simple. Go to your fellow real estate agents that work in your office and ask them, say, hey, Karen, hey, Steve, I noticed you have some listings over here and they're not moving. I would love to conduct an open house for you this weekend. And, I would schedule it and we'll market it and promote it. And I'll set at the open house and I'll greet, all the people. I'll have some fresh bread setting out to set the tone of, the warm and fuzzy, for people, because you want to work on their emotion, have cookies setting out and some punch and things of that nature. And what that will do is help at least get you comfortable talking to potential buyers. Again, it's a great way to get some leads. Majority of most buyers that attend open houses do not buy that property. But good news is they are shopping for a property, and if you work them the right way, you'll end up getting a sale. Obviously, get a great lead from the listing that you conducted for your fellow realtor. Again, I was very successful. I sold the listing. That's unheard of. Less than 1% of all agents that have an open house actually sell the listing in which they had the open house. That's crazy. So I like to work the percentages, but when you're first starting out in real estate, you want to make sure to take advantage of everything you can and all the resources available so you can get the ground running and start making some good money in real estate. So chime in with your fellow realtors, find out what listings that they may be willing to have you hold an open house. They'd love to do it for you. It will appease the seller. The seller always feels like, my realtor's not doing enough for me, and I'm going to fire them. I'm going to find somebody else. They didn't show my house once. They didn't conduct any open houses, and blah, 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 blah. You're only as good as your last sale, right? So another segment I'm going to share with you in the future is how to conduct a successful open house. All right. So again, be sure to plug in. I got some great information for you, and I'll teach you how to be successful in conducting an open house and how to work the leads that come in the door to view the property that you're having open for that day. So let's talk about extended education. Oh, it's so important. I would plug into successful real estate agents, personal growth like Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump. Another one that comes to name is Dale Carnegie. There's a book that he put out years ago called, what was the name of it now? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, is not very good at speaking in front of a large group of people, nor did he read a lot in his career. He picked up Dale Carnegie book and he loved it so much. It really launched him and grew with his success, and he was feeling so much better talking to people, interacting with people. And that book was at one time, and I'm not sure if it still is, the second most read book in the world. You know what the first one is? The Bible. Yeah. So that's a pretty powerful statement, and a true one at that. So be sure to pick up that book and read it if you haven't already. If you're not into reading, plug into audio. I love audio, especially when you're driving. You can listen to it and learn from it and apply the principles. It is well worth a few dollars that you would spend on an audio or a paperback. Now, Number 10, surround yourself with successful agents. You know, that's with any business. You surround yourself with a bunch of deadbeats, take advice from deadbeats. That's what you're going to get back, okay? What you surround yourself with, that's what you're going to get back. I was very motivated to be successful. You know, we grew up poverty. We were on welfare at one time. And I knew growing up, I didn't want to grow up and live that life and depend on the government to bail me out and put food on the table for my family. So I was very quick to learn to surround myself with very successful people that were making the kind of money that I wanted to make, and also be able to help community and give back to others as well. So I surrounded myself with very successful people, and I still do to this day. And I'm always learning something. And it's so important to do that, because, you know, what you learn from them, you can actually, you know, launch to a whole nother level you'd never dream of. So be sure to, you know, surround yourself by successful agents that are already making the six figures. Emulate what they do. You know, it sounds so simple, but it is. Copy what they do, and you'll get the same results that they do. It's just that simple. And number 11, never quit. Never quit. You know, there's so many people out there that quit. You know, they quit on their marriage, they quit on their job, they quit on their career, they quit on their kids. It's crazy. You know, we're in a society where people just, they don't want to put the time and effort into it. Now we're dealing with millennials that are carrying this title of lazy. They just expect everything to be handed to them. You know, they're just not going to put out the efforts. And gosh, I hope that's just hearsay. I would hate to know that millennials in this day and age is just being lazy and expect, you know, everything to be given to them, because they're really setting themselves up for a big disappointment. So never quit on yourself. Be sure to plug into the right people. Surround yourself by successful people and happy people as well. Stay away from all the negative energy out there, because it's toxic, and so you definitely don't want to hang around negative energy. It can ruin you. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my segment. I hope you got some great information and education from it. Again, be sure to message down below your comments, complaints, suggestions. I would love to plug into you, answer any questions that you may have. And thanks again. Make it a great day, folks. Bye.